Hello everyone and welcome back to another reaction video. Today we'll be checking out RWBY World of Remnant from episode 13 to episode 16. So the last 4 episodes before, I guess, jumping back to and finishing volume 4 of RWBY. We will check out Between Kingdoms, Faunus, the Schnee Company and the Great War. So without any further ado, let's start with the first one. Okay. Between Kingdoms. So what is going on? Small villages and a lot of grim.
So now you know more about the kingdoms, but what's between the big cities? Alright, the easy answer is RWBY. There's no reason to beat around the bush. They're out there. And it probably won't go well if you run into one. That's okay.
Into one or a bunch?
Or huntress. And you've trained at one of the major academies, so you're probably fine. Just don't get yourself overrun by a pack of them.
Easier said than done.
Now, after a long day of killing Grim and saving the world, you're going to probably want to stop at a small town inn. Small villages dot the land between the major cities. You might ask, with the wilderness being so dangerous, why not just live in the big cities?
They probably don't want to,
isn't meant for
or
everyone.
it's not.
These small towns are founded by people that have a problem with the kingdoms, or don't want to deal with the kingdom's problems, or maybe just enjoy the simpler life and would rather take their chances in the wild than in a kingdom. It goes about as well as you'd think.
Yeah, I've seen
If the
how this
founders are
goes.
smart, then there's a good chance these towns can survive for the same reason the kingdoms continue to. Natural barriers, strong defenses, and stubborn citizens.
I don't remember any machine guns in nearby towns.
Then the chances of a town lasting more than a year isn't great. Unfortunately, it's not just the Grim running around ruining towns. Wandering bandits are another threat. These groups of usually fairly skilled fighters travel the lands, never settling in one place. They often prey on convoys, sending goods between kingdoms. But that's not all. These raiders will often wait for a town to be at its weakest, maybe after a Grim attack or while its fighters are out hunting, before finally moving in at night and striking.
This is what happened to Shion.
The worst part is, if the Grim hadn't attacked before, you
They
better
will
be damn
after.
sure they will now. And you can't exactly have bandits raid your town without at least a few negative emotions. This is also why bandits never stay in the towns they conquer. With attitudes like the ones they have, Grim tend to be pretty interested in them as well. As long as they keep moving, they've got a better chance of survival. Besides these small towns, the areas between kingdoms really depend on the continent.
It's
Harsh
wild out there.
deserts, icy tundras, lush forests, you name it. At this point, pretty much every inch of Remnant has been mapped out. Although there are some areas that no one's gone into and come out alive. And of course, somewhere out there is where she is.
Well,
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain for RWBY.
That's
for more
true.
RWBY-related content, check out roosterteeth.com.
There's also a ton of other great animated content on this channel, so go ahead and click that video to watch more.
And please subscribe for more RT animation on YouTube.
Don't forget, mash that bell,
Mash that bell.
those notifications. You would know.
yeah. Jumping into the next one. Honest. Okay, the first one was cool. I mean, it kinda said what we've already seen from the volume 4. This will give me a little backstory to how, I guess, Menagerie came to be.
You know, most of us spend a lot of time talking about mankind versus Grim, but technically there is a third party in the mix, the Faunus. In case you're not in the know, the Faunus are a species on Remnant that appear to be human in just about every way. Every way but one. Each Faunus has a single animalistic trait. some more apparent than others. Ram horns, tiger claws, cat ears. I swear, on my huntsman's license, I once saw a guy regrow his severed lizard tail. I
Oh,
swear, no amount of drinking can make you forget that pretty picture. As far as everyone's aware, Faunus have been around as long as mankind, if not a little longer. History gets a little fuzzy past a certain point, but we do know that their kind and ours are completely compatible from a biological standpoint.
Crow explaining this, it's funny.
Get a little wolf cub kiddo. A wolf faunus and a human also typically means your little bundle of joys teething phase could get a little dicey. But if you take a wolf faunus and a bull faunus, for example, it's a complete roll of the dice. For
What?
all you know, you could be cleaning up your son's shedded snake skin.
Completely random from both of them.
Their heads when it comes to, well, a lot about the faunus. But science isn't the real problem. It's how we all get along. Or in this case,
How not?
don't.
Yeah.
Early man was scared to death of the faunus. And honestly, it's not too hard to sympathize with that. Seeing something that looks like you and acts like you walk out of the forest and reveal a pair of fangs can be a little upsetting.
Intimidating.
Like most things man doesn't understand, all sorts of rumors and stories surround the faunus. People avoided them like the plague, pushing them out of settlements and sometimes even hunting them down. Man began to outnumber the faunus, and the faunus began to consider man nothing more than a hostile species. Can't really blame them. These clashes between species were unavoidable, as land that was safe from the Grim was in constant short supply. But it was the Grim that finally brought humans and faunus together for the first time. A village in Sanus fell under attack, and the only reason anyone survived was because the humans and faunus united against their common enemy. It was a step in the right direction, but it didn't fix everything. Once humanity learned they weren't so different from the faunus, they still used those differences as an excuse to exploit and alienate them. The treatment of the faunus differed around the world, and things wouldn't improve much for them until the Great War.
Oh.
Veil and Vacuo against Mantle and Mistral.
Oh, okay.
A war unlike anyone had ever seen. And when it was over, the world was desperate to find compromises that would ensure they'd never see the likes of it again. Faunus were awarded equal rights as citizens of Remnant, and as an apology, they were given an entire continent of their own to do with as they pleased. There were some that saw this as fair and just, but many saw it for what it really was, a slap in the face from a nation of sore losers. And so Menagerie was born. There's still faunus all over the world, though the fair treatment they were promised varies in quality from place to place. But Menagerie will always be their safe haven. Here's the thing, though. You can only push and prod people so much before they reach a tipping point. And when you pack those people together, it just makes it all the easier for them to get organized and get even.
Oh. The White Fang. Okay.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain for RWBY.
Well, this one was like the most informative so far.
There's also a ton of other
Didn't
great
know
animated
that
content on the channel, so
like
go ahead and click that
faunus
video to watch more.
biology
And
is that
please
crazy.
Subscribe for more RT animation on YouTube.
Don't forget, mash that bell.
Mash that bell.
Those notifications.
I mean, given how many faunus there are out there, and that the island that they were given, it's like 2/3 desert. It's not a surprise we have this situation. Schnee Dust Company.
All right. What was I supposed to talk about next? Oh boy. Yeah, okay. I've got a few words to say about this one. The Schnee Dust Company. Bunch of self-entitled, monopolizing SNOBs. Who only care about making a profit, no matter how many little people they gotta step on to make it happen.
He sure is vocal for this.
That's just my opinion.
Oh, okay.
As you all know, our survival in the world of Remnant depends almost entirely on a crystallized substance known as dust. It powers our cities, fuels our machines, and gives us a fighting chance against the creatures of Grimm.
For weapons.
Which means it's extremely valuable. Nowadays, it's almost impossible to buy dust products without the Schnee Company snowflake stamped on the box. But
It's a good
always
logo.
used to be that way. Nicholas Schnee was the son of a dust miner turned soldier. Born just after the Great War, he found himself at the perfect point in history to take full advantage of the world's next industrial revolution. The Kingdom of Mantle, soon to be Atlas, was in a transformative period. They'd found themselves on the forefront of technology, but realized they depleted nearly all of their natural resources to do so. That's where old Nick came in. Rather than watch his kingdom become dependent on the aid of others, young Nicholas Schnee decided to spend his days at combat school, his nights working alongside his father in the dwindling Mantle mines, and any time in between learning everything he could about anything he didn't know.
Hard-working
Had
man.
a fire in his belly. When his father died, he left his son everything he had. It wasn't much, but it was enough for Nick to set his plan into action. He left school, rallied all the men he could afford, and set out on an expedition to find a dust deposit that could revitalize his kingdom. And wouldn't you know, he actually pulled it off. Fast forward just a few years and the name Schnee suddenly meant something. Quality, affordability, trust. See, all those years spent in combat school were so that Nick could personally oversee every new expedition. People appreciate a man who's willing to stick his neck out for them. And it's how the Schnee Dust Company earned the business of every kingdom in Remnant.
Okay. What now? Like, what is
It's
Jacques
also
in
what
this?
led to an early retirement. Nick had started a family that missed him, and his body was tired. Years of working in dust mines can have some nasty side effects on your health. And so enters Jacques Joulet. Having married into the family, Jacques decided to take the Schnee name over his own. He was a lot of words I shouldn't repeat. But most importantly, he was a cunning businessman. Jacques managed to convince Nicholas that he was the perfect man to run the SDC in his place. And from a certain point of view, he was right. Under Jacques' leadership, the Schnee Dust Company has become more profitable than ever, completely dominating the industry. At the cost of the company's soul. Cheap labor, dangerous working conditions.
Here we
doing
are.
whatever it takes to destroy the competition. Jacques Schnee doesn't care about people. He cares about winning. That, and making sure he's got the best damn PR team in the world. The Schnee name still means something today. But as for what it'll mean tomorrow, well, your guess is as good as mine.
Well, Wise, it's your turn. So Nicholas is her
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain. For
grandfather, I
RWBY. For more
guess.
RWBY-related content, check out roosterteeth.com.
There's also a ton of other great animated content on the channel. So
This
go
one
ahead and
was
click that
also
video
very
to watch more.
informative.
And please subscribe for more RT animation on YouTube.
Don't forget. Smash
Also
that bell.
explains
Smash
like
that bell.
why are White Fang really opposed to Schnee Dust Company, given all that slave labor. Okay. The last one. The Great War.
The Great War. What a terrible name for such a horrible time in history. Though the war itself lasted around 10 years,
Ooh.
the century leading up to it was filled with so much tension, you might as well lump them together.
Damn.
Most of that tension was coming from Mistral. Territories rich with resources and safe from Grimm have always been in high demand. But the Emperor of Mistral had managed to conquer nearly all that Anima had to offer.
You want to
Thanks in part
expand?
to an unlikely friend, Mantle. The two kingdoms had formed an alliance, Mistral provided the small kingdom with goods unavailable in the frozen tundra. In return, Mantle introduced technological innovation as well as guidance in the settlement of Anima's cold, northern territory.
Makes sense.
It was good, until it wasn't. An incident in Mantle led to a strange and unexpected decree. The abolishment of the arts and repression of self-expression. The people of Mantle had come to believe that they would be much safer from the Grim if they could simply keep the emotions of the masses in check. Given Mistral's strong, artistic culture, many assumed this would be the end of their alliance. But they were wrong. Mistral complied, selectively, enforcing Mantle's wishes only in the outer territories, allowing the centralized powers to continue to live as they pleased. If you haven't caught on yet, Mistral's full of jerks. The people of Vale had a problem with this. Well, they had a problem with a lot of things Mistral and Mantle had been up to. Treatment of their citizens, use of slave labor, and their constant insistence that their way of life was what was best for everyone. Eventually, Mistral made the jump across the sea to the eastern coast of Samus.
Of course.
Small islands and peninsulas in the area were perfect to establish a settlement. They were so perfect, in fact, that Vale had just begun settling the area themselves. I think we can all guess what happened next. The King of Vale did everything he could to avoid armed conflict. Despite cries from his people, he insisted on sharing the land with the settlers from Mistral. But to this day, no one knows who shot first.
Oh.
But what began as a riot between the two bands of settlers had suddenly become the first battle of the Great War. Mantle quickly came to Mistral's side. Battles were fought on both Sanis and Anima soil. Villages were lost to both combat and Grim. And it wasn't long before Vacuo decided to join the party. Up to this point, Vacuo had done its best to stay out of the fight.
Yeah, it sounds
Mantle and
like...
Mistral, having both already established a small presence in Vacuo territory years before, promised to leave them provided they didn't interfere.
Okay.
Soon, those talks evolved. It went from don't side with them to side with us and you'll be safe.
Okay.
Vacuo did not much care for that. They came to the conclusion that if Vale were to fall, there'd be no one left to stop Mistral and Mantle from coming.
That's a logical assumption.
So they did what
they sided with Vale.
Logical thing.
Mm-hmm.
They drove Mantle and Mistral out of Vacuo and told Vale they had their backs. I love their style. So the war raged on. Grim attacks increased worldwide.
Yeah, you cannot imagine.
Ceasefire in order to deal with the hordes of monsters before returning to the fight at hand.
Oh, just a minute. A Grim attack.
Were often helpless with their best warriors.
Oh yeah, all between the kingdoms, villages. Bye-bye.
A lot of settlements were lost during these years, and most were never reclaimed. Rations on food and dust were put into effect. Development of technology accelerated. Humans and Faunus who fought alongside one another became closer. And every day, mankind grew more and more efficient at destroying itself.
What ended?
But
Like
it all ended
the Vital
with that
Festival, right?
Campaign. Mistral and Mantle knew that if they could take the dust mines of Vacuo, they would effectively cut off the supply of dust to their enemy. It was to be a final devastating blow to Vale and Vacuo. They were only half right. The King of Vale personally led his army into battle alongside the soldiers of Vacuo and decimated the enemy forces.
Oh.
Crown atop his head and armed only with a sword and his scepter, he laid waste to countless men.
Like, who were
The
those
sand was soaked red
great
with
people
blood.
of that time?
The Grim came in droves. It was the single deadliest battle of the war, and legends of the greatness and terror of the warrior king were born that day. Historians will tell you most of these stories are nothing but grandiose hyperbole. Unusually violent weather conditions, combined with Mantle's unfamiliarity with the desert combat, are likely what led to such a high death count. But whatever the reasoning, everyone bowed to the King of Vale by the time it was over. The Great War had ended. The world was ready to live under the rule of Vale. But the king refused. The leaders of the four kingdoms met on the island of Vital, and it was there that they worked together to form a treaty and establish the future of Remnant. Territories were redistributed, slavery was abolished, governments restructured, and the warrior king, the last king Vale would ever have, founded the Huntsman Academies and placed his most trusted followers in command of each kingdom's school. He would teach the world to fight so long as we promised to fight for ourselves and never against ourselves. Seems like we haven't kept our end of the bargain.
That's true.
Hope you enjoyed that peek behind the curtain.
Interesting. What is the possibility that was Ospen?
There's also a ton of other great animated content on the channel, so go ahead and click that video to watch more.
And please subscribe for more RT animation on YouTube.
Don't forget, mash that bell.
Mash
Damn.
that bell.
Those notifications. You would know.
Okay, I mean, these for World of Remnant were very informative. I really enjoyed those. We got basically like everything we need to know from between the kingdoms, what is going on, or actually just a little recap of what the things are, right? And this is actually where we are currently in the fourth volume. Then we have the Faunus explaining the backstory of how everything goes, right? Which one is interesting to how they, I mean, the biological standpoint of if you put two different Faunus together, you have a completely random outcome, but it will be a Faunus, right? So that is very interesting. It makes sense that if human and Faunus go together, there is a Faunus. So yeah, that's cool to know. Then we had Schnee's company. Yeah, originally it was very trustworthy, and after everything, after Jacques come into the place, we have the current situation. So we will see if Wise can have the future of the company. No, I mean currently it looks like Whitley will get the company, right? So we will see what will happen in the future volumes. Hopefully we get to see some different outcome. But yeah, the Great War and everything, that was informative. 10 years, and at the end the one and true king dominated, and I guess decided that with the Vital Festival and all, just everyone live peacefully, and no more slavery. Those were cool. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you like this one, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, click that bell for notifications to be informed of my next reactions, gameplays, reviews, and other things you guys put in the comments below for me to check out. And I will see you in the next one. Bye! And now a special thank you to Kevin Wallace, GB Bro, Ultimate Troll, and Reds Racer for additional support on my Patreon.